Hello everyone, welcome to this glasses case making workshop for the long case craft kit that we have on our website. Let's just unpack our box. So you would have found this channel by scanning the QR code that you have on your box. So you might have a sticker inside or on the side of your box, and inside you'll have your leather ready to make your craft kit. You might have added some personalized message which will appear here. You'll have your logo in either silver or brass depending on what hardware you've chose, and inside your box, I'll just put that to one side for a moment, you'll also have all your tools and materials safely packed in tissue paper. So let's open these up. So inside you will have a really handy pair of pliers for adding the hardware and adjusting some of the metalwork on your leather glasses case. I'll just put that to one side. You will have your locks for your glasses case and also a trigger hook which we'll add to the side later on. You'll have some cocktail sticks, a little screwdriver, and in this tub inside you will also have a little bit of wood glue, which I'll explain what we do with that later on. And you'll also have your chrome plated Chicago screws, which are a really nice quality high-end version of a standard rivet. These give you a much nicer finish, and we get these manufactured in Italy and Germany for a much better finish to your product. The leather is from a sustainable tannery in the Netherlands, which is a gold-rated tannery famed for its sustainability and ethical practices in terms of how they treat the chemicals after the leather has been made, which can be very harmful if they're not treated properly and if they get into rivers and water systems. So all from really good sources. So I'm just going to move our box out the way and we'll just go through some of the tools and make a start. Okay, so the first thing we need to do with this is put our hardware on. So you will notice you have two little holes at the bottom by the logo, and which is the flap. So later on, this will become the flap of our glasses case. So we're looking for those two small holes, which will be part of our lock. And also when we fold it all the way over, you'll notice these two holes face in the opposite direction. These four holes are going to make our lock, and let's have a look at those pieces now. So in one of your bags, you will have a trigger hook, which is for later, so we'll add it onto this part here later on, so we can clip it onto a handbag or a belt loop or inside a satchel, and you can clip it in lots of places. It's quite wide, so it will fit on lots of things. The remaining parts in this little bag are a lock with a clip. It pushes down on one side, so that is the front. And this is the front of our leather, the coloured side. This is the back, which has also been treated both sides. It's called a resin-backed leather. So this part corresponds to here. And you'll also find this prong, which is quite sharp. So just be careful with your fingers because it is very sharp, and we're going to deal with that in a moment. This goes with that part of the lock. And the other two pieces, which has a bar and a spiky bit on the back and a back part, we will work with after this. So we just put them to one side for a moment. And you will notice these come a little bit open. So they're a bit wider than need be because they're manufactured for lots of different widths of leather. So I would just squeeze them about the width of the leather. because we want it to hold onto the leather quite firmly. I probably squeeze that a little bit much, so I'm finding it a bit tight, but I can just about squeeze it on. And this is the right way round with the clip, the bouncy clip that side, and that's not going to come off. So that means I've closed it enough to make a tight enough grip that it doesn't fall off. And your prong, these two spiky parts, will go through those corresponding holes. Through to the back. You see? Now this is the tricky bit, and this is the bit that sometimes I would stand up to do so I can add a bit of body weight. You don't need to be strong to do this, but the more you push down on these spikes, the firmer the grip is going to be, so it'll last a longer time. If you do this right, it'll last forever. So you got these pliers in your craft kit, and if you close them by squeezing them, we're using the longer edge. So we're not using it widthwise, we're using this long edge that we want to place against the prong at a right angle. This is how we start to close them. So we keep them at a right angle to each other because we're going to fold at a right angle. If we just push them down like this, they will just curl over and you won't get a tight grip. If we fold, they'll fold over like that and grip the leather more tightly. So we want to fold them over. So I'll just put this down and demonstrate. So we're trying to hold the pliers quite flat. I'm pushing down a little bit as well. I'm trying to keep them at a right angle. So keep the pliers at a right angle to the prong. And now I'm going to push down quite hard and fold. You can do it a few times to get a tight grip. And you can see I've folded that one over. And that's a really good result. If you're not happy with it, you can undo it again and then refold it. So we do exactly the same with the other side. I'm going to stand up to add a bit more pressure and right angle and just fold from that point. And if you feel any spikes, you can just push them down just so you can't feel anything. Now that's really tight, that's never going to come off, and that's a really good result. If it wiggles a little bit, that's not a problem, it's never going to come off. If it wiggles lots and lots, then maybe just undo it with the pliers and do it again. So that's that part done. The next part is this piece with the bar. Now this bar needs to be closer to this top edge, and the spikes will go through these holes. So the spikes will go through these holes. The problem with this part is this has this back on it. It has a slightly rounded edge, and this is the edge we want to feel. The other edge is a bit more sharp. So let me just get that bit in. So that fits in there like that. And again, we need to fold these prongs over, so kind of towards each other. The problem is this bar gets in the way, so it's hard to make it lie flat. If you've got a chopping board at home, you can lay this bar over an edge, so over the edge of something like a chopping board or a loose piece of wood. Chopping boards are really great for this. Most people have one in the kitchen. And then these spikes, we do exactly the same thing. Right angle and fold. You can move to a different edge so you can reach properly and fold again. Again, make sure you can't feel any spiky bits, and that's great. No wiggle, never gonna come off. And that's our lock made. So that's the part we need to do before we start making this 3D. So now I'm going to explain all the screws and where they go, and step by step we'll make up our glasses case or pencil case or stationery wallet, whatever it is that you're making it for. So the next parts that we need are the Chicago screws. This is the female side, which is the finished side that we want to see on the outside of our product for quality. The other side is like a screw with a threaded screw. In your other little baggie, you have a little pot of wood glue, which I'm going to open and explain shortly what that's for. And we have some cocktail sticks. I'll put them with your wood glue, and a handy little screwdriver. So how this works is these little tabs fold up because they're actually going to tuck inside. So just give them a squeeze so we can start to get this in the right shape so it doesn't resist. So fold those little bottom tabs up, and the same on this side, because later on they're going to tuck underneath and join with this hole. So this hole will join to that one. So fold these back as well. So this is the back of your glasses case. So fold the little tabs back and the back, because the front of this product goes over all that part. And by folding it, we're already getting it into the correct shape. So it's not going to resist us as we're starting to make it. With a bit of warmth from your hand, you'll be able to get this in a good shape. And already it's starting to look like a lovely professional product, especially in this really high quality leather from the Netherlands. So I'm just going to open this up now, because we need to have it a bit open when we're going to work. And the screws that we need to focus on first, if we get off the ones, the finished side, the ones we want to see, it's this one here and this one here that we put the front of the screws in. And what I also do, just to make sure that the screw will never come out, I just put some little dabs of wood glue inside the screw. We don't use thread locker in leather work, because if you get thread locker to lock the thread of a screw on top of leather, the solvents inside it will stain and damage the leather instantly. So we use wood glue because that can wipe off leather and it doesn't make a mark. So although this is metal and we're using wood glue, it'll just dry inside the screw. It's optional, you don't need to use it, but it just means it'll last forever and the screws won't ever work the way out. They're very, very strong screws, and this just makes them extra strong. So we have our screws here, and this screw needs to go through here. Remember, these little tabs tuck underneath. So we want to just ignore them for now and put our screw to there. So it might take you a while. You might want to pause this video while you're doing it. It looks wrong to begin with. It looks like it's making a funny shape because I'm going to close it later. So I just want to put that screw to there, making sure that little tab has got tucked on the inside. And just by hand, I'm just going to join that screw on for now. I don't need to use the screwdriver yet because I'm just putting these in loosely until I get a little bit further along. When I'm a bit further along, I'll tighten them all up. If I tighten it now, it'll be hard to close. So we do this one there, and then we do this one. So don't forget, pop a little bit of wood glue, tuck your tab inside like so, and put it through this hole, not the hole in the tab, but the hole there, like so. So it'll look like that on the inside. It'll look really strange. It'll look like you're doing it wrong. It's just, I do it this way because I try to keep it open as much as possible so I don't get trapped. And it's hard to get my hand in if everything's closed up. So it's a really good start with your glasses case. Now we can move on to the second hole on the front side, the one with this lock on. And we do them both at the same time. So put one in either side, add a bit of wood glue, now we can pull this over. You might need to just lift your tab up a little bit on the inside, just because it might make it resist, and we just need to squeeze that over to put our next screw in to get it in the right place. And you can see now that you might just be able to see that the screw is just coming through that second hole. So again, just by hand, find the thread, just wind them on temporarily, and then we'll do the same with this one. Lift up the little tab and pull that side over to there. And I'm trying to do this at angles. You can see I'm working in a very awkward angle to do this for the camera. So hopefully you can see that all right. So now it's actually taking shape. So what I want to do now is, just before I go any further, just get my little screwdriver in there. And I can tighten them up now because everything's in the right place. And all that wood glue will get pushed down. And it'll dry over time, probably in a few hours, and just lock the screw. They're quite tight anyway, but it's just, if you just want to make sure if you're going to use it lots, it's a really good idea. I often put a few extra screws in just in case you lose one, or maybe one goes in between the floorboards or behind a table, so I'll put a few extra in. Before we do the last one on either side, what I'll do now is just try to line up the tab on the inside. You'll just see the holes correspond to that one. So you should be able to, like, if you hold it up to the light, and if you can't see any light, then you just need to kind of tweak them a little bit, just to just move them over until you can see through them. So I can see light coming through now. See, with this one, you can just see the light, so we can see that they've lined up. If they don't line up, you just need to wiggle them a little bit. So now we'll do the base, which is these two holes here. So for these ones, I just have to work a little bit differently. I will put glue in the female part of the screw. I will pop it through the hole there. I'll do the same on the other side. I'm working quite fast as well, by the way, so you might want to pause at different parts. I'm just trying to make the video as short as I can. I'm working very quickly. You can take your time, but it just helps with uploading and the size of files. So just feel free to pause it. So I can see these now come through to the other side. I can see the metal bit, and before everything gets more closed, just try and get the thread connected while you can still get your hand in. And if you struggle, just use the screwdriver. And this is just really going to secure the base. It adds a bit of extra protection to the base, and it just closes up any areas so nothing is going to fall out of your nice new glasses case, or if you're using it for pencils or stationery. Then also this works well. So I'm just going to do, these are quite difficult for me, my hands are quite big, so it's a bit hard to get them inside the small space. And I think actually I just need to line that one up a bit better. That's why I'm struggling with the screw. So just check it's lined up. I think it just moved out of the way a little bit. So if you're having problems, it might be because it's moved. So yeah, getting somewhere now. And that's all our sides done in this clever little zero waste pattern. And now we just need to do the top ones exactly the same way. So pop them through. You might need to pull it over ever so slightly. Add a little bit of wood glue. Add your screw, just the same as you've done before. And tighten it up. Ignore this little flappy bit, we're going to deal with that in a minute. The last one on our side. I'm doing this at record speed, 23 minutes. This is the quickest one I've done. So, you know, just pause, or if you want to give your hands a break, have a cup of tea. I don't blame you. I've got a cup of tea waiting for me here when I finish, so I won't drink it now. So you pop that in. Put your last screw in for the side. Exactly the same as all the others. Making that really nice decorative edge. And voila. So that's that bit done. Now we can add our lovely trigger hook. It's already taken a shape. You can just give it a squeeze, make it into a box shape. It just helps all the leather settle into exactly the right shape. I've measured all these pieces really accurately for the craft kits, so you know, you just sometimes need a little bit of squeezing just to make that really lovely classic shape. You can already see, you know, you've got that really lovely oblong classic shape coming through in this lovely shiny grey leather. So, right, now before we close this over, because those two holes correspond to each other, as I'm sure you probably guessed by now, but just pop this over first. There's a little notch either side in this tab, so that's where it folds. Just helps this to sit better. That's why I put a little notch there. We do it a lot in leather craft. I'm just going to pop a bit of glue into this first for this one, just because I've got to grip it and try and get it over a bit. It's a little bit tricky with the hardware there as well. So I'm just going to try and hold that together. I'm just trying to do it at an angle that you're going to be able to see. So this one's a bit trickier because you're trying to hold on to it at the same time. So yeah, that should be good. You should be able to see if you can do it that way. And then let's just find my screwdriver. And then tighten this last one up. And there we go. So you can either have this outside if you want to clip your glasses inside a bag onto a belt loop. I often use them for keys, especially the one that's smaller, the card case version, and I'll pop them inside. Sometimes I'll put all my keys in or different things, so they're not like rattling around in my bag. So you can either have it on the inside, which is the way I've designed it, if you just want to see it the way it is. You might clip on something onto that you don't want to lose hold of. If you're using it for glasses, you might want to keep it outside so it doesn't bash against your glasses. Just depends what you're using it for, really. I use mine for my glasses, so I just keep it on the outside. And there we go. So that's your lovely glasses case, pencil case that has something long in it. You know, it's whatever you want to use it for as well. Glasses, sunglasses. I've designed it around the size of sunglasses and some of my favourite pens that I like. So it's really up to you. It's quite a good standard size for lots of different things. So hope you enjoyed that. Hope things went well. If you had any problems or you're stuck with anything or a little part, just reach out and I'll get back to you really quickly. So this is the silver and grey version of the glasses case, long case. You know, you might have got a brass version as well. So, you know, that's just a version of the brass hardware. So this is just one of the limited edition ones I'm making at the moment. But you can just see the difference in the colour. This is one of my bespoke pieces, but it's just to show you the colour of that there. Okay, so there you go. Well done, everyone. See you later. Bye.